Hi, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you have logged in. Um, Hope you are all doing fine. We, the members of Rotary Fellowship of Wildlifers for Conservation, share a common interest, that's wildlife and its conservation. Willing to work with a 120-year-old organization, Rotary, towards building a future in which people and nature thrive. To share a few notes about our fellowship group, we are a group of around 900 interested individuals, Rotractors, Rotarians, who have globally united around a common interest with the primary purpose to network and further friendship. Our purpose is to create awareness about importance of wildlife, to promote lasting friendships outside one's own Rotary clubs, district and country, and to promote locally, regionally, and globally that conservation of living resources are important to humans and future generations to enjoy our natural world and the incredible species that live within it. So today we also have members from different Rotary clubs and friends of Rotary from different parts of the country as well as the world. A hearty and a warm welcome to each one of you. On behalf of all the wildlifers here, I also extend a very, very warm welcome to our speaker, Ms. Vidya Venkatesh. Chandani, over to you. Kindly introduce our speaker.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be introducing Vidya Venkatesh. I've heard and watched a lot of her TED Talks and heard of her work from various people, which is very, very inspiring. Vidya Venkatesh is a passionate wildlife conservationist and director of Last Wilderness Foundation. With a corporate background spanning 13 years at Citigroup and JP Morgan, she made a dramatic career shift in 2010 to dedicate herself to wildlife conservation. Her transition was fueled by years of trekking, outdoor facilitation, and volunteering with organizations like the WWF India, Sprouts, and BNHS. Vidya served as director for National Conservation Initiatives at Sanctuary Asia and led sustainability efforts for Deutsche Bank. A seasoned trekker and butterfly enthusiast, she played a key role in rediscovering rare butterfly species in India. Her work in mitigating human-wildlife conflict with local communities, especially with the Pargri and the Baiga tribal communities, has been transformative. Notably, she's been an integral part of the tiger reintroduction program at Panna Tiger Reserve and has empowered marginalized communities through education and sustainable livelihoods. Her work is grounded in collaboration with the forest departments, community engagement, and a belief in coexistence between human and wildlife. Thank you. Over to you. And welcome.
Thank you, Chandni, and thank you, Sanjay. Thank you so much for inviting me today for this month's talk. I think I met a few of the members last time. I don't know, it was a few years back, but I think I met a few of your colleagues here. So I'm going to start sharing the presentation. Let me know if you guys can see it properly. Okay, Chandni, can you see this?
Yeah,
can you
see
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very much.
Okay. Okay, so good evening to all of you. And like Sanjay says, good morning or good afternoon to people who've logged in from other locations as well. So I believe most of us in this forum today are people who've traveled to wilderness areas, have seen enough of wildlife in different forms, in different shapes and sizes. What I'll be talking about today is more to do with a different aspect of conservation, where we understand that animals or wild animals are, an integral part, of course, for conservation, and we work with them a lot. But today I'm also going to share the other aspect where humans and people are as important as wild animals and forest department, as we call them, multi-stakeholder. So we also feel and we also believe that human beings are as important a stakeholder in conservation. Of course, not human beings, when I mean it's not you and me, because we are sitting in cities. We do contribute a lot to conservation, But honestly, we contribute a very little percentage in terms of what can be done. People living out there in the wilderness areas have a lot more to share and do, and they also are one of the biggest stakeholders when it comes to wildlife conservation. So let me just start with saying that we have chosen this topic saying where people meet the wild is because we are talking about people who live very close to wilderness areas, and where and how do they come in contact with wilderness and wildlife, and how is it leading to conservation? That's precisely what we'll be sharing, or I'll be sharing today. I think most of you would be familiar with the concept of corridors, wildlife corridors, right? So, and all of for all of us today evening, people can feel free to ping on the chat box, or put your hands up. I don't know. I mean, Chandni, if that is okay, and Sanjay, if you guys can figure it out. If somebody wants to ask a question when I'm talking, please feel free to do that. I'm okay with it. So, this is a wildlife corridor map, and we're talking about different areas, different protected areas that you can see. I can see, if my mouse is visible, there is Satpura in the center, there is Nora Dehi, there is Panna Tiger Reserve here. And if you go towards extreme north east, there is Ranipur Wildlife Sanctuary, which is in UP. So this is pretty much a central India's wildlife corridor map. And why I'm showing you this is because the pink areas, where it comes to the protected areas, are connected through these dark green lines in between. So these dark green lines are known wildlife corridors. This is a map by Wildlife Conservation Trust. And the known wildlife corridors are something which is extremely important for conservation of the wildlife which live in these protected areas. Without these corridors, these protected areas will probably be functionally extinct over a period of time. So in order to maintain these green corridors and to darken and deepen the corridors, a lot of work has been done and is being done also with the multi-stakeholder approach, because these corridors are not inviolate spaces. They are spaces which have towns, cities, villages, highways, railways, all of it. So these green corridors exist in spite of all of these developments that have happened. These green corridors still exist in our country, which is a huge positive. We're just trying to figure out how do we emphasize and enforce this a little more, strengthen this a little more through the work that we do. So we, as the Last Wilderness Foundation organization, we work a lot on strengthening wildlife corridors as well. Just to give you an idea, and again, so Last Wilderness Foundation, our organization, is based out of Mumbai. A small introduction that I would like to give. It's based out of Mumbai, and our work is entirely in Madhya Pradesh. Most of our work is in Madhya Pradesh. We do a little bit of work in Maharashtra and Bombay as well. But the work in Madhya Pradesh spans across Kanha, Bandhavgarh, Panna, Kuno, Gandhi Sagar, a lot of these protected areas we work through. So, which is why I've picked up the state of Madhya Pradesh to give you some examples. Facts and figures of Madhya Pradesh: human population is about 8.7 crores. It has the highest number of tigers, the highest number of leopards, highest number of gharials, number of vultures, and now cheetahs as well. So MP has been one of the pioneers in terms of wildlife conservation, and it has managed to bring back a lot of species in places where they were extinct. The Barasingas have been relocated, the Gaurs have been relocated. So MP has really been a pioneer in a lot of initiatives that have been taken in our country for relocation and reintroduction as well. Panna was void of tigers. They've reintroduced tigers in Panna. It's one of its kind in the world, where it's been a successful story of reintroduction of tigers in the wild. So having said that, so this is what Madhya Pradesh is in short. Coming to a smaller place from MP, we are zooming down into Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. And to talk about Bandhavgarh, the incidence of human-wildlife negative interactions that happen. There are about 63 incidents. There were 63 incidents of tigers venturing into human-dominated areas in 22-23. And just to give you an idea, Bandhavgarh is a tiger reserve which has more than 150 tigers, and it also has about 150 villages there. It's a very rough figure I'm giving you, but it's almost about 150 villages as well it has over there. So there were some 63 incidents of tigers venturing into human-dominated areas. 16 fatalities have been documented due to tiger attack within 2 years. Average, there are about 2,800 or about 3,000 cattle that are being preyed upon by tigers every year. And of course, now there are elephants which have come into MP, which is very, very recent phenomenon in the last about 7 years, 6, 7 years. The elephants have come back to MP after, I don't know, about 60, 70 years. They were not there for about 60, 70 years. So most of the people who currently live in Bandhavgarh, in and around Bandhavgarh, no longer remember or no longer have the habit of coexisting with them. So they're now learning to live with elephants. So they've started coming in, or they started coming in initially from Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand. Now they've become a part of the MP landscape. So after about 60, 70 years, MP has got the elephants back into wilderness. So giving you this idea is just to tell you as to just a place like Bandhavgarh. I'm not talking about Kanha, Panna or any other locations right now, but just talking about Bandhavgarh itself. There is so much of human interactions that happen with wilderness on a day-to-day basis. Pretty much, Bandhavgarh is a tiger reserve, and many of us who visited tiger reserves would already know. But just to re-emphasize on the fact that tigers are territorial animals, and because it's a territorial animal, it finds its territory through food, shelter, and water. So you see the grasses, which is shelter, you see water bodies, and you see prey base, which is available. So for a tiger, if the yellow ring or a yellow circle is the territory, and it does not need anything more than food, water, and shelter, slowly when the prey start reducing and they start vanishing due to human interventions, it could be development, it could be poaching, it could be grazing pressure. There are multiple things which we'll talk about. All of this, then the circle changes and it makes a larger circle. So that's how the territories are formed. And it makes a larger circle so that the prey base can be accommodated or enough prey base can be available. And in the process of doing that, there are villages also that come into its territory because there are cows and other cattle that can be used as prey for the tiger. So this is slowly how the territories start increasing. Of course, there are other reasons why the territories also overlap with the villages, but this is one of the main reasons why the territories overlap with human-dominated areas. People in villages, we all know in India, there is no dearth of population. We've got a huge amount of people that can be seen in every village that you go, and especially in incidents. And this is an incident of Bandhavgarh where there was a tiger sitting on the extreme right side in one of the fields. If you can see the field on the right side, there is one tiger sitting there somewhere. You can't see the tiger, of course, but the villagers had gathered just because they were very curious, extremely curious to see how a tiger looks. Because most people have only heard about the tiger, they've not really seen a tiger. Though we in cities, we assume that villagers would have seen a tiger every now and then. But many of them, or most of them, wouldn't have haven't seen a tiger. They're very curious to know how a tiger looks like. They were also even more curious to see how the village tiger, their own village tiger, looks like. So even after the tiger was captured, their curiosity was about हमारे गांव का टाइगर बाघ कैसा दिखता है, हमको देखना है, हमारे गांव के बाघ को देखना है. So they still feel that sense of ownership for that tiger, even though it had attacked a human being, attacked a person inside the house. They still feel a sense of ownership, saying हमारे बाघ को आप ले जा रहे हो, हमको देखना है हमारे बाघ को. So that was the sentiment that the villagers still had. The work that we do with these villagers is a lot to do with interacting with them, with doing outreach and awareness, because though they have been living there for ages, many a time when such incidents happen, a lot of what do you call logic and a lot of sanity goes for a toss, because then villagers just don't listen to what's happening, and they sometimes get so aggressive and attack the forest department. It's very difficult for the forest department to tackle such situations. So proactively and reactively, both we engage with the villagers more often than not, trying to talk to them about what to do, what not to do when there's a tiger in the village. So this is like just one part of the village where we could screen a film and we could talk to the villagers one night over here. As we spoke about some of these pressures and how human beings are interacting with wildlife, and why do we see these incidents happening? Some of the reasons here are, humongous or huge pressure of illegal cattle grazing inside the forest, inside the protected area, because some parts of India have a lot of cattle. I mean, most parts of India have cattle, but some parts, especially central India, has a large number of cattle, in every house. All of them don't have grazing land outside protected areas, enough of grazing land. So they're all sent into the protected areas for grazing. So that's one of the biggest threats. Apart from that, of course, the NTFPs, which is the non-timber forest products that are collected from the forest, is also something which creates an avenue or an interaction between humans and wildlife, which is firewood. This is mahua that you see, the yellow flowers that you see, that's mahua flowers. The tribals make alcohol out of it. There is tendu that you can see in those vessels that are kept. There's tendu. There are tendu seeds that are collected. The tendu leaves at the bottom out of which BDs are made. So in central India, all of this is part of the livelihood that exists, and people depend on the forest for all of these things. And this is not a side income. This is one of the primary sources of income for them. Forest fires, this current season that we are running, this is the fire season. This is a forest fire season, especially because of mahua and tendu leaves. When the mahua collection happens, villagers tend to clear the floor because the mahua flowers fall all through the night. And to make sure in the morning they're able to collect the flowers very easily without it getting mixed with the litter, they clear the litter by just burning the dry leaves before the summer season starts. So the entire season is prone to forest fire right now. In India, most of the fires that we have is usually man-made or human-inflicted because we don't have natural forest fires happening in India. So all of the forest fires that we see and all the destruction that happen is either intentionally done or it's unintentional. Sometimes it's just because they, strike a BD or a matchstick and they put it in the forest, but that could also, start a fire. And of course, we have poaching as one of the other threats for wildlife, which is also where human interactions come into play. Apart from this, you see a lot of crop raiding that happen, nilgai and wild boars entering the fields where they raid the crops, and that's a huge loss. It's both ways, right? So this is where the farmers are affected. The elephants have actually broken down some chowkis on the top right image that you see by wild elephants. Bottom, of course, there's a human being who's been attacked by a tiger. And then in the center, you see a cattle being killed by one of the tigers. And on the left bottom that you see, there's a barking deer and a tiger that has got electrocuted. And this is, again, a threat which we are not able to address as a country as yet, because whenever the farmer is trying to protect his crop, his or her crop, they are going to fence the area. But the herbivores do not stop themselves or cannot be stopped through the fences, through the physical fences. So they usually the farmers have started resorting to electric wires, electrified wires being laid, live wires. And that live wire has also affected many of the tigers and leopards in our country. This is because we do not have a solution for crop raiding compensation. We have a plan for crop raiding compensation, but it doesn't work. It's not very effective. We really need to relook at that. We've been trying to put it up and bring it up in different forums. The crop raiding compensation or crop compensation amount and the process has to be streamlined. But this is a fallout of the failure of crop compensation process that we have in our country. We do have a cattle compensation process. We do have a human death compensation process. All of that currently is working well. In most states, it's working well. In MP, definitely it's working well. But the crop raiding compensation is yet to be effective. And as a fallout of all of this, the poor tiger gets put behind bars, of course. So this is one of the situations where the tiger had to be caught from the village and it was captured. So like we spoke about the tiger territories, it's also as to how does it work when we remove one tiger from a territory, right? So when the tiger is removed from a territory, pretty much you see this vacant area and the territory is vacant. And instead of one tiger, because of the feasibility of creating a home for themselves, there could be multiple tigers that can possibly come in, especially in areas where there is overlap with the villages. There could be tigers which are spreading out into different parts of the village because the village areas are pretty huge. And there could be tigers that are overlapping each other's territories because the food base or a prey base is available in abundance over there. In India, we've also seen a lot of positive stories of human-wildlife coexistence. We've got tribals, we've got communities which worship the big cats. It could be leopards, it could be tigers, it could be even elephants for that matter. We've got communities that worship them. They also revere them in their day-to-day worshipping also. As a deity, there's Vaghoba in Maharashtra, there's Baghesur in MP. So they have different forms in which they worship the big cats. But this is part of our culture where coexistence has been embedded. So we're very proud, and we should be proud of our country where coexistence has been part of our story since a really long time. The outreach and awareness programs that we work with the forest department and with the villagers is to a large extent customized, though it may all look alike or it may all sound like, oh, we're talking about wildlife in general, but to every location there is a specific program designed. And it's required because in some areas on the top left that you see, there are snake bite issues or a high number of snake bite cases that happen. Bottom left where you see this lady in pink sari looking through the binoculars, this is Panna. And these villagers have not entered the park since they were relocated from the core area of the park. So this is a relocated village with whom we were working, and we took them into the park as a tourist. They had never seen the park as a tourist. So it was very interesting that they had never seen a crocodile in Panna River through their binoculars. They were seeing it and they were extremely excited to see it. They were very excited to see the wild boar and the peacocks as well, because through the binoculars they found it very fascinating. So here in Panna, the story is very different. In Panna, it's about trying to get more support from people who've seen the tigers before it went extinct, and subsequently now that the tigers have come in, they've been very supportive to allow the tigers to be reintroduced in Panna. Panna also has a slogan which the field director back then had created, saying Jan Samarthan se Bagh Samrakshan, which is with people's support we will be able to save the tiger, protect the tiger. So that slogan continues in Panna even today. And on the right, you see again in Panna, there is a lot of people acceptance, people discussions that keep happening. This is part of outreach and awareness. This is Kanha, Bandhavgarh, all of these places. The field directors themselves are involved in many of these places because they understand the need to address the needs of the villagers. On the top right, if you see one of the gypsies, there is one old man in his pagdi, he's standing. He's a 92-year-old man, Golu Singh. All his life, he had never seen a tiger. And when we went to run the Village Kids Awareness program that we were running across Bandhavgarh villages, he requested us saying, before he dies, his only wish is to see a tiger. So as an exception, we took him to the safari one evening. Unfortunately, that evening, we couldn't spot a tiger. We again made an exception. Next morning, we said this has to be, done, and it's our duty to kind of, get this man to see a tiger. Next morning, again, we took him. To his luck, he saw female tigress with 4 cubs, sub-adult cubs that day in Bandhavgarh. So that is a smile after he saw the tigers on the next morning. That was his only wish before he dies, he said. I hope he's still alive and I hope we can meet him again. But this is very heartwarming because sitting here in cities and when we buy permits and we just go into the forest, we presume that villagers have been there and they all would have seen a tiger. We are the ones who are aliens and we are the ones who need to see the tiger. But they are as much curious, they are as important, and it is very important to see a tiger in its own habitat because the only time the only time they would have seen a tiger is when probably it's entered the village and it's creating a ruckus, or it has killed a cattle, or it has probably attacked a human. So those are the only times, otherwise when they would have heard or seen about a tiger. So we wanted them to really, through this program, we really want them to see a tiger in its own habitat as to how it is peaceful, calm animal, and it does not really look at humans and just attack. That doesn't happen. So this was very important for us to run this program. At the same time, capacity building with the forest department and with the villagers is very important. What we've also done is in places like Panna, where the tigers have slowly been increasing, and now they've started interacting with humans as they start moving out and they start dispersing into the corridor areas that we spoke about. It has been important for us to tap the corridor areas and look at the villages that are there. We've created a program called as Gram Rakshak, where all the people that you see in the left photograph, along with the forest department on one side, the villagers are all representatives of their villages, and they have been trained to be the first respondents whenever there is a wild animal in the village. So those are extra hands and legs and eyes and ears for the forest department And this has been a very successful program. We're running it for the last 5 years almost. And it's an experiment that we started working with. But these are little programs which have been extremely successful whenever there's an animal in the village. Instead of trying to kill it, or instead of trying to create a ruckus or trying to create a problem there, these people have managed to curb the issues. And these people have been the first respondents to make sure that the information is passed on to the right people. And before the forest department comes, it's almost like a team which helps to hold the fort until the department comes and rescues the animal. So this Gram Rakshak program has been extremely useful for us. Roles and responsibilities, of course, we're not going there, but this is how the Gram Rakshak works, where the forest department is on one side, the village is on the other side, and these people form the bridges between the two. They're all on WhatsApp groups. The forest department, along with the rangers, some SDOs and DFOs are also on the WhatsApp group, along with the villagers. And the moment there is an incident that happens, the response that the forest department also gives is, it's amazing. It's amazing to see how this process is working so well. Like we spoke about the villagers that are there in the buffer areas or in the areas in the corridor, I would also like to highlight some of the very important or interesting group of communities or tribals that we've been working with in Central India. So the Baiga tribe is one of the no, we are no longer calling them, or formally we don't call them primitive tribes anymore. But to describe them, they are one of the most primitive tribes. They fall under the category of particularly vulnerable tribal group, PVTG group. The Baiga tribe is pretty much there across landscape in Central India. We started working with them in Kanha. And in Kanha, there was a very interesting incident where some of the Baigas went into the forest to collect mushrooms just when the first raindrops or when the first rainfall happens. The fresh mushrooms that crop up from the ground. And to collect that, when they went into the forest department, of course, it's a core area of a tiger reserve, they had to stop them. And incidentally, they had to put a case on them. So there was a case that happened on 3 women who went into the forest, Baiga women. And that became a big issue. It came in the media. There was some unrest that happened locally also. That is when the forest department really wanted us to step in and see if we could work with the Baiga tribe. This tribe is extremely interesting. While I work with wildlife conservation and my heart is towards wildlife at all times, I also now understand that understanding people and culture is so important. When I started working with the Baigas, that was an eye-opening process for me. Just to give you how traditional dance that they have. So this is how they dress up. They have a lot of jewelry that they wear, including their headgear, the jewelry that you see, the bead jewelry that you see on their around their neck, the Nagada instrument that they use as well. So this is the Baiga community members from Kanha, some of them that we've picked and photographed them. You can see the jewelry that they're wearing. When we started working with them, we didn't know what we were going to work with them for or towards, because they are extremely shy, extremely timid. When we would enter their villages, they will all get into their houses. They are not very open and vocal about their thought processes. It took us almost a year to break ice with them. So a lot of cups of chai, a lot of cups of, thankfully we didn't have to have mahua, but a lot of cups of chai is what worked for us. So we would sit outside their house, trying to just break ice with them, not really talk about anything about work. Yes, somebody's asking something.
No, can you mute everybody, please?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's by mistake. It's fine.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, we had to break ice with them, and it's a very difficult community to work with because of the shyness that they have. Thankfully, being women, it helped us to break ice with the women of the community first. First step that was very important. And then we realized we explored as to what is it that they would be able to do as an alternative livelihood. Slowly, when we started talking to them, we realized that they are one of the most content tribes that we've ever met. They really have mud houses. They have no ambitions of buying a house or buying a car or educating their kids or traveling anywhere. They have no ambition. They live for the day, they will eat for the night, and they will sleep, and they will think about the next morning when they wake up. So that's how simple a life they live. They all have mahua. They brew the mahua at home and they have it. Even including the women, they drink mahua as a uh, uh, liquor. This is something where we found it challenging, saying because they didn't have any ambitions, what are we going to lure them towards, right? If we tell them you need money, then we can lure them towards money, but they don't want money. And we don't want to introduce something like that into the community when there is no need of money. So it was very difficult. Then we had to find a point where they found a sense of pride in the community. The pride was their jewelry. So slowly we explored the fact whether they can make the jewelry that they make for themselves. Can they make that? And can we make that into a process where they can earn an income livelihood and they don't need to go into the forest? So that worked very well. That worked so well that not only the women, but the men in the community also came up. They started making the jewelry as well. And this was a dying art. This art was being followed, or practice was being followed only by a few people in the village. Slowly, if you see now the jewelry now that is being made, not only the women, but the men have started making, the children have started learning, and they are really very proud of making this. They don't see this to be a very different learning process because we didn't have to teach them anything. They knew how to make it. We only had to tweak it a little bit to make sure it caters to the market. So instead of 40 lines, we said, okay, make 20 lines or some minor changes. But apart from that, pretty much this process is running even now. The Kanha Baigas are making, almost 40 women are involved in this. They make the Baiga jewelry and they sell it in different shops. Online also it's available on iTokri and different other avenues. Anybody can buy it. If you go to Kanha, do visit the villages, meet the Baigas, and you can buy the jewelry from there itself. So very beautiful jewelry. This is the range that are bracelets. You have silver coin jewelry. There are bead jewelry. These are glass bead jewelries. All of these ranges are available there. And this is the brand that we've created because it's an independent brand. It's not run by Last Wilderness Foundation. It's handed over. The community themselves source the material. They purchase it, they package it, they sell it. So it's an independent brand right now. It took us about 8 years to step out of the process and make it independent, but that was exit journey was pretty interesting. But we managed to do that now. So Magical Kanha is the brand that you will see it by. This is the ranger sitting in the center, Sita Jamra. She is very proud to share the money that is the income that has been generated through the Baiga jewelry making. There's a self-help group there, and she's the one now who's currently the ranger, and she's helping us to run the process out there. We move on to the next tribe, which is the Pardhi tribe, and I don't know how many of us have heard about the Pardhis. And Sanjay, this is very interesting that I got to know about the Pardhi, a little more about the Pardhi tribe after I worked for so many years in one of your talks or other, one of the talks that you had organized where I forget the name of the lady who spoke about Hakki Pikki tribe. So she spoke about this tribe. She was, I think, a social scientist, and she was working with different communities, and she mentioned about the Hakki Pikki tribe. And that's when she said that in Bangalore, in Karnataka, the Hakki Pikki tribe is also one of the Pardhi tribes. And then I researched further on it. I then went and met the Hakki Pikki tribe who live opposite Bannerghatta. And they still speak the same language. They still have roots from where these guys have come in Panna and other places. So it was very interesting for me to, join the dots out there. Their stories are very similar. So giving you a background about the Pardhi tribe, the Pardhis are known to be or infamous for being poachers and hunters. They are located mostly in central India. In Rajasthan, they hail from Rajasthan, but currently they are in Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. And some parts of Karnataka, like I said, they are known by a different name in different parts of our country, but in Karnataka also they are there. The ones in Karnataka probably no longer practice hunting and poaching. They have moved their occupation from there. But the ones in central India, some bits of poaching and hunting still exist. This is where the Panna Tiger Reserve debacle happened, where Panna lost all its tigers, and the report, the special SIT report, Special Investigation Team report itself said that is because of the poaching activities run by the Pardhis, where the tigers went extinct. So hence the forest department wanted us to step in again, work with the community and see what could happen. The department had done a fantastic job when the tiger reintroduction program started in 2007-8 almost. They decided to work with this community who lived in the forest. They are nomadic tribes. They live inside the forest. They move from one forest to another. So when Panna started reintroducing tigers, they said we have to work with this community to bring them out of the forest, settle them at a place outside, and only then can we reintroduce tigers in the forest, right? So while they were being brought out, they said we will educate the kids and we'll give you livelihoods. Those were the promises made. Some of them have worked, some of them have not worked. There are hostels in Panna which was created by the forest department, which still exist. Their children are still studying there. The livelihood part is still not working well, or rather not working at all. It worked for the first couple of years and it didn't work. But yes, the community is very interesting. When we started working, we just didn't know about them at all. We started working in like 2012 or so. This community, this is how they look like. The dresses that you see, they wear extreme, like this is the traditional outfit for the Pardi community. You can identify them by the clothes. This is where they live in Panna. This is a village called Gandhigram. Very warm people, extremely warm people. Not most people or non-Pardi people cannot really enter the village without taking somebody who's known to them, because it's very difficult to engage with them in a conversation. They have their antennas up all the while because it could be raiding, it could be, any kind of anti-poaching activity that somebody comes for. So they always have their antennas up and they're very careful about interacting with outsiders. Thankfully, by now in the last 12, 13 years, we've managed to become an extended family for them. And that is huge success that we had. But while we did this, there is also a lot of learning that we had from the community regarding their practices, regarding their traditions, regarding their culture. The habits or the skills that they have. Like we looked at the Bega community, we also looked at the Pardi community as to what skills they have. And I'm probably going to play some videos. And if somebody feels they can identify these calls, please put it on the chat window. I've opened my chat window and I can see it. So if somebody can, okay, one second, sorry. This is just about the Pardis background, saying they are infamous for poaching and most of the activities that you see, news articles that you would have read, or if you Google Pardi, you would see all these articles saying they are termed the biggest threat to wildlife. Okay, here is the. Can someone identify the call? Yes, Sanjay, that's your right. So this is the call of a peacock, and this is. Okay, the next call. I'm just going to go quickly. Okay, that was a heavy one. This is. Any guesses, anyone? Okay, this is a red spur fowl. Yeah, it's not a woodpecker. It's a red spur fowl. So this one also is made by this person. It's a broken flute that they convert into an instrument that they can play this sound. And the animals and birds actually respond to this. They actually come around. Okay, the next fall. Crazy. No one? If you've stayed in villages or if you stayed in the forest at night, pretty much we would have heard this. These are jackals. So that is very interesting, where we realize that these community members can actually reproduce and mimic calls of different birds and animals, because they used to hunt and poach these animals. They would trap them. They would use these calls to trap these animals, attract them and trap them. So we realized that we should probably use it in a more constructive way. It's all about getting a livelihood for them. We started using them in a constructive way, where we trained these community members as nature guides. And if you see now, we have a program called as Walk with the Pardi in Panna. If you go there, you can actually take a walk with the Pardis, and they will be able to show you the forest. They will be able to read the floor so well. You know, it's amazing to see how beautifully they can read the forest floor. Something which we as tourists, we probably wouldn't be able to see, but they would know where the porcupine went, what it ate, at night it went here, and then, you know, where it would be hiding right now. So pretty much all of this they can read from the floor. So Walk with the Pardi is a unique program which was partnered with Taj Safaris, where they trained these guides as nature guides with the traditional knowledge. It's not the same knowledge that you would get if you go on a safari. So do take this walk if you ever happen to be in Panna. It's a very different experience to go on a walk with them. There is also a very beautiful whistle that they carve out. And you see these whistles are something that they again play to attract another bird, which I will show you. I will play the call and see if you guys, anybody can guess it. But this whistle is now be made available as a souvenir in many of the shops, in many of the places, where probably the only Pardi souvenir that one can buy from India. So they also customize it. They also make it as a workshop where tourists can go there. They can see how they make these whistles. These are made out of kher or tendu wood. That is what they make it out of. And
इससे ऐसा सीटी मारो कि जिनमें आवाज दे
any guesses on the bird? That's a gray francolin, gray partridge. So they would place a net and they would play the call. So this whistle is pretty much around everybody's neck when they just go into the forest for a morning day-to-day course. And then they would start playing it. When the bird comes, they'll get stuck in the net and they just pick up a couple of them and they bring them back home. That's how they used to work. But now we've asked them to stop hunting, and the souvenirs can be sold, you know, at a price where they can get an income out of it. So they've started carving the whistles very neatly now. Again, the Rita seeds that you see at the bottom right is also something that they carve out very beautifully. Yeah. The hostels that I was talking about, the Pardi education centers and hostels continue to run. These children have challenges in getting identity cards because of their birthplace being in forests or elsewhere. A lot of times they don't have caste certificates. Currently in Madhya Pradesh, they're in general category. They don't have any reservation. They have a denotified tribe designation, but that really doesn't give them any reservation or anything as a SC/ST. So the denotified tribe is only the group, because they were known as criminal tribes earlier before the independence. And subsequently, after independence, India decided to remove the terminology of criminal tribes. So the entire group of criminal tribes were put into a category as denotified tribes. So pretty much the stigma remains. A lot of this continues to remain. But denotified tribes is what they are known as right now. So this is the Pardi Education Center that we run, because even before the kids get into hostels, they need to be groomed a lot. They are hyperactive kids. You can imagine, as it is, village kids are quite active. Pardi kids are even more active because they've always lived in the forest. You see the lady in blue on the left and the guy in blue on the right with a turban. These are the two kids who used to be in the hostel. They are educated, they are 8th pass, and they are literate. So they are the ones who run the center out here, very close to Katni. There's a center that we run. All of these kids are not enrolled in schools. None of these kids are enrolled in schools. So the center is run as a bridge between the village and getting them to school. So once they start coming here for a year or so, they can then be enrolled into different schools nearby. Again, working with this community was a challenge, because we realized over a period of time that the women were the decision makers out there. So breaking ice with the women was extremely important. Whatever the men would do, the control, the reins were always with the women. So we had to work with the women at all times to make sure that they understand what we are doing. They understand that they need to send the kids to school. They understand that they should not be going out into the forest for poaching. So once we started doing that, we saw results where the number of cases reduced, the kids started coming to schools and all of that. Panna Tiger Reserve is now about 75 tigers plus. It's almost 100, but being conservative, I'm saying it's about 75 tigers plus. Thanks to the Pardis that they have really changed their ways of living right now there. So quickly, I think we have some more time. I'm just going to quickly go over one more story about Bombay. Bombay is a very unique landscape where we live with leopards. We also run a program called Living with Leopards. This is pretty much a day-to-day story, every night story, not even a once in a blue moon. It's a every day, every night story in Bombay, where leopards pass through human habitations. There are camera traps that have been used to capture these images. But there's some beautiful stories that talk about Bombay coexist. I mean, leopards coexist in Bombay with humans. Bombay had an issue where there were incidents where attacks were happening, but we realized with studies, that the incidents were not because the leopards existed. The incidents were because the leopards were being trapped and relocated from other areas into Bombay and vice versa. And when the animals are trapped and relocated, they have a homing instinct where they start coming back. They will try coming back into their hometown. That is when the conflicts are likely to happen, because the relocated animals do not find a suitable location for their food, shelter, and water. And when they start entering into human habitations, and especially in a city like Bombay, the conflict is likely to happen. This slide was made a couple of days back, hence the number is not updated. Right now, today's news says we have about 54 leopards in Bombay itself. So Bombay is one of the highest populated or highest density of leopards in probably the world, but to say safely, it's India at least. And the population that we're talking about, we are saying about 6,17,000 people per leopard right now. This is a common story that we see. This is the highest prey base available for the leopards here in the city, where it's stray dogs, cats, rats, anything. They're very adaptable animal, extremely easy to navigate through places, through gullies in Bombay. They also enter high-rise buildings, and this is a video which probably some of you would have seen. It's very close to the Sanjay Gandhi National Park in Bombay, where it enters a lift area, pretty much the lobby of the building, and quietly just picks up the dog and goes. So the dog doesn't realize. And it's almost an every night phenomenon where a leopard picks up a dog in Bombay. So this is pretty much the situation. We managed to work through the situation where we started this project called Living with Leopards. We started working with the citizen initiative as a citizen initiative, and it's still running. This started in 2011, as you can see. We started 11-12. This is still existing as a citizen science project. There is not one particular NGO which is running it, but as a citizen science, most of us have been involved in one way or the other. It was beautifully designed by the Forest Department at that time, with the principal investigator scientist Vidya Atreya, who heads WCS right now. So myself, I was the project coordinator in Bombay. So we ran this project where students were involved. You can see the scat collection happened at that time. Camera traps were being placed at that time. A lot of citizens' participation helped us to understand the movement of leopards in and around the city. We also interacted with all the residents who lived in the periphery of the national park and spoke to them about the do's and don'ts of living in a vicinity of leopards. We interacted with local schools, because inside the national park there are schools, there are municipal schools, there are padas which are inside the national park, inside the core areas. So we had to work with a lot of school children and the parents as well, as to do's and don'ts of living with the leopards, basically. We also trained the Forest Department on rescue, capture, and release, on how it should be happening in a proper method. So the capacity building happened with the Forest Department. One of the most important stakeholders for the conservation of leopards, or for reducing the conflict situation in Bombay, was also media, because the media house or the media houses or the print media also enhance the fear or the impact of the conflict that was happening. It was increased multifold because of some of the media that use some words which says bloodthirsty animal and khunkar janwar and stuff like that. So we had to really educate the media personnel to say what is it scientifically, what does it mean when you say it's a man eater or any of the words that were being used. So media workshops helped us a lot. And now if you see the media, print media that publishes any of the conflict situations, they use very constructive words. They also talk about what to do when you see a leopard instead of just saying, oh, there was an attack. They also say what not to do and what to do. So it's been a very constructive, what do you say, a transformation where they now are helping us to spread the right message instead of trying to just instill fear or give them sansani tez khabar, that we call it. Police also had to be engaged. Along with them, we also engaged with the fire brigade, because when there is a leopard that has entered human habitation, all of these stakeholders come into play. So we had to work with the police and we had to work with the ambulance and fire brigade as well. Training of all of them was very important, and right now it works beautifully whenever there's a leopard that has entered human habitation. How can we all help? Of course, you can participate in responsible tourism programs, like we mentioned, the Walk with the Pardi, the Baiga Jewelry. All of these initiatives can be taken up on a personal level, at a corporate level, at your society level, all of them. Support educational and livelihood initiatives if possible, because we have programs where we can also sponsor a child, sponsor the hostel, or even help with the the livelihood initiatives that we have. Spread awareness about human-wildlife coexistence in a very positive way, constructive way that is possible. And of course, for any other questions, people can write to us as well at the email ID given below. So I think I have not overshot the time, Sanjay. I was just being careful of not overshooting the time. That's it. Any questions?
Absolutely not. Thank you, Vidya. There are a couple of questions in the chat box.
Sure.
I will ask, there are a couple of questions by Rotarian Jalaluddin Khan from Trinidad and Tobago. So I will just read two from his, and then I'll go to the next question. If anyone else has any question, please, you can use the raise hand option. You can either ask directly or you can type it in the chat box. So, Jalaluddin Khan, Rotarian Jalaluddin Khan from Trinidad and Tobago asks, is there a tiger species recovery, conservation, breeding, reintroduction project? Is it successful? If not, why?
So I'm not very sure if you're talking about the Royal Bengal tiger only, Jalaluddin Khanji. If you're talking about the Royal Bengal tiger, then I think a lot of the zoo programs that are running, that runs with that intention in mind. Currently, thankfully, we still have the species in adequate numbers in the wild. We do not have, we do have some out of country. In Africa, there are people who are trying to run a program to have the species being bred. But in India, I think the zoo programs are something which preserve and conserve the genetics of the species, and that is where the program is successful. So I'm not sure if that is what you're asking for Royal Bengal tiger, or if there's any other species that you're specifically asking about.
No, I think he's asking about Royal Bengal tigers. Yeah. Yeah. And he has one more question. That may be something that, of your interest to answer. Are borderline conflict stakeholders respected, empowered to assist in co-management to stop conflict with habitat and species, or involved in economics or protection benefits?
Okay, so what are borderline conflict stakeholders? Clarify that.
Rotarian Jalaluddin, can you please, please unmute yourself. I see you have raised your hand. Please unmute and ask.
Good day to all. A little lecture. What I'm saying, one, is that we in Trinidad and Tobago in our university and a program that I'm involved in, regard to the first question, we are trying to understand wildlife species, breeding systems, their biology, so forth. So we understand if we need to breed them, we have documented their ecological, their biological systems for breeding. So on the India side, it's important to understand the basic biology of tigers, etc., all species type, not as Bengal, because if we are in a dead-end situation where we need to breed, not as a zoo for keeping genetic, but to need to reintroduction, we need to know some basic science of the animal, mammalian biology. That's one. Two, what are borderline committees is exactly what you presented, the tribal groups, etc., and the frontline communities that are in conflict with the tiger habitat, either by cutting it or occupying or by impacting on the species with conflict. So I just want to know, you did some basic education programs, but are they involved in any co-management or rehabilitating the ecological environment, the habitat, replanting, etc.? Are they involved in co-management of developing economic opportunities like ecotourism? Are they involved? Because it's very clear in Commonwealth countries, there's a big difference between state management control and local community control. Local community is not usually given an opportunity to co-manage or be involved in economic. Usually, it's an outsider commercial company that may be involved in tourism and bypass the local community, or the local community is not given any central or local government funding to help with helping reforestation, etc. It's the forestry division staff alone who does it. So those are the sort of conceptual ideas I'm discussing. Thanks.
So Jalaluddin, there is a concept in India that is called joint forest management committees, especially near protected areas. JFMC's work, pretty much it's implemented everywhere. I wouldn't say it works very well, but it's implemented everywhere. In a tiger reserve, the committee is called by the name of Eco Development Committees, EDCs, and these committees are formed with the villagers and the forest department being a part of jointly being part of the decision making, where they make sure that the villagers are empowered to extract produces from the forest with keeping in mind the eco-friendliness, making sure it does not destroy the forest. It's also an economic value to the villagers. So like you mentioned, this is exactly what the JFMC is supposed to be doing. That's the role that the JFMC plays. And the decision making for that village, for that particular park, national park or wildlife sanctuary, in that village or that part of the village is given to the JFMC. So that is one. Second, like you said, the tourism, of course, is definitely something where the EDCs manage it. There are self-help groups, but self-help group is not necessarily part of the forest department or the joint forest management committees. The self-help groups are also used to run the tourism models, but most EDCs run the tourism model in our country, especially the eco tourism models where there's a nature walk or there are homestays or there are any other activities that are run. They're all run by the JFMC teams that are created out there. So a lot of decision making is given to them. Some places like Panna, like I said, the locals were also involved in making decisions for the reintroduction program of Panna Tiger Reserve. And but that was more on an informal basis. It wasn't so much on a formal basis where they were given the authority to make a decision, but they were more involved and included in making the decision. So those are models that I have seen or I have experienced and come across. There are economic models through tourism. There are decision making or empowering the locals have also been seen. But JFMC is really the answer probably to what you're looking for.
Yeah, thanks, Vidya. We have a question from, it says admin. I'm not sure who it is. Have leopards become a headache to forest department due to increased population or expanding human landscape? Habitat destruction. This is the question.
So I mean, just to first say, I don't think any of the wild animals can become a headache for the forest department, because that is primarily what they will be protecting. But I think in general, not just for leopards, but I think in general, the issue is with the development, with the increase in population, with the habitat destruction. the conflict situation or the negative interactions have increased over a period of time, and Forest Department might find that more troublesome, the handling the negative interactions, than the animal itself. In fact, the animal, very surprisingly, the animal itself is not even a problem for the villagers. We've seen and we've met the families where the animal has actually killed a human being, a family member. And when we met the family members, they never pointed fingers at the animal. They really said that, our family member did not take care. They did not, they just slept off on the floor, or they probably went into an area where the female was sitting with cubs or sitting on a kill. So they really never had a issue with the animal. I don't think the Forest Department also has an issue with the animal. But if you're talking about leopards per se, leopard is a city issue in most places because of our challenges with garbage disposal. Solid waste management is the problem that we are really facing in cities, especially. And I can speak for Bombay, and I think it's the same for Bangalore as well, where leopards are getting closer and closer to cities because of the menace of solid waste management. We don't have an answer to it as yet. As a country, we've not addressed it very well. And because of that, we've got dogs, cats, rats, everything that surround the garbage. And those are easy prey. And like I said, leopard is a very adaptable animal. It can feed and survive on any small mammal or animal that it can find in a city. That is why it has been coming closer and closer to the cities these days. So the answer to that part should be really solid waste management. So many of the questions that we have in wildlife conservation, the answers lie in many of the other domains as well, which we need to address. So yeah, it's not really the problem with leopards. It's a problem with our behavior, human behavior surrounding these animals, I think.
Vidya. Bharat, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for an interesting talk. My question was regarding these leopards in Mumbai. So when you said there are 50 odd leopards in Mumbai, you're basically saying they are living in Sanjay Gandhi National Park, or they are outside the park, or they come and go, or what kind of boundaries are there between the park and the neighboring city built up area? I was just curious to know.
Yeah, so Bharat, in Bombay, so this number is not just the national park, Sanjay Gandhi National Park area. This covers a lot of outside the park areas, which is RML Colony. It covers, I think, Tungareshwar as well. So many of the non-protected areas also have leopards in Bombay, and that is a uniqueness where leopards are still surviving pretty much. Coming to the boundaries, we don't have any physical boundaries around the park for leopards not to cross over. There are some walls and there are some, fencing here and there, but that's more for the encroachment not to happen. It's not so much for the leopards to not cross over. So pretty much for the leopards, as far as they are concerned, there are no boundaries, physical boundaries that have been built. So yeah, the movement is very fluid. We only know that the territories are formed, and which is why they stick to their own territories, but otherwise they are fluid, or they are free to roam around the city wherever they want. If they decide to come on the highway, which they have, because they cross the highway pretty much. I stay at a place called Thane, which connects, which is actually another district. Bombay and Thane is connected by Ghodbunder Road. This road passes through the national park, and this has pretty much seen leopard roadkills. It has seen very interesting. I don't know if you've heard about the leopard story called Azoba. So there was a leopard called Azoba, which was caught trapped in Bombay and was released in Malshesgarh. It walked all the way back. There's a very, very nice article. There's a movie. Urmila Matondkar has worked on the movie, and it's called Azoba. The movie is called Azoba. It's a Marathi movie. So it came back all the way, and it unfortunately died in a roadkill on that Ghodbunder Road that I'm talking about. So leopards cross the main highway in Bombay as well. So there are no physical boundaries for the leopards to cross, but pretty much we know which are the areas where they move around. So they don't move around. Generally they don't move around the highways unless there's a forest patch that they are crossing over. There's a water body here. That particular spot is a very vulnerable spot. But apart from that, we don't see them roaming around the cities. But we do know they go to human settlements, which is like these slum areas, very close to the national park. Wherever there are slum areas, there are dogs, there are garbage over there. Even in high-rise building areas where there's garbage, which is just outside the building boundary wall, and there are cats and dogs that survive on it, that's where we've seen the movements of leopards. So they're very close to human habitations, really.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Vidya. I think anyone else, anybody wants to ask any questions?
I think Chandni has asked some questions.
Oh, yes. Just
Are the reintroduced tigers at Panna successfully dispersing? Was there any threat of inbreeding during the process of reintroduction? Okay. Yeah, interesting question, Chandni. Chandni, so there were 7 tigers that were reintroduced in Panna. They all came from different parks of Madhya Pradesh itself, from Kanha, Bandhavgarh, Pench, different parks. So there was not really an issue of inbreeding, because anyway they came from, I mean, it was zero, almost zero. The only last male tiger that was left was also captured, and I think he didn't survive. So pretty much it was zero. But the reintroduced tigers came from different parks. And then when they started breeding, again, like I said, there was no inbreeding, but the gene pool, they ensured that it came from different areas. Also successfully dispersing that you're talking about, they've now in the last 2 years, 3 years, they've started dispersing. But before 3 years also, we know about one tiger which reached Bandhavgarh. He was named as Panna Lal because they could identify the tiger. He reached Bandhavgarh. We also know of tigers which are now moving out into different areas. The Ranipur Wildlife Sanctuary that I showed in MP, which is northwestern side. There are tigers from Panna which have reached there as well. This year, this is the first year that there have been 3 or 4 incidents of conflicts that happened with humans. Sorry, cattle conflicts have always happened. That is not a very big issue. But this is the first year where we had human attacks that happened. So now we really feel that there is a dispersal which is happening in different areas. Having said that, the corridors again need to be strengthened. So we started working on the corridors, but that is where India now needs to focus on, because the protected areas pretty much are getting slowly full with the numbers. And now as they start moving out, we need to look at the corridor areas to be strengthened, and making it safe is probably the next step that we need to look at.
Thank you, Vidya. So just a follow-up question to that. So when you say that the corridors are now being restored and the health of the corridors are being studied, when you look at the connectivity, like from Panna to another patch of wild space, where the tigers can actually disperse and establish their territories. So considering the human density in that landscape, and also a lot of villages and everything, are any factors being considered as to where the dispersal is happening, and how suitable the habitats are for those tigers that are dispersing from Panna to anywhere around, so as to not to increase the conflict with the villages, because the prey also matters to wherever they are dispersing.
Yeah. So, Chandni, just stepping back and talking about wildlife corridors per se, wildlife corridors are not something that we as humans really create, right? We don't create a passage which say that's a corridor. So it is selected by the animal itself, making sure that the availability, feasibility for it to move around is there, making sure the food, water, shelter is available, making sure the disturbance is the least possibly. I mean, I'm assuming that is what they would be considering, right? The factors that they would be looking at a checklist which says, should I go left or right? That is where they will say wherever there's a least disturbance and where there is, a feasible pathway that they can find out. So there are studies which show where the corridors have been because of the live movements. So there are camera traps that are deployed where they've seen the corridors being formed through the animal movement, which is all live animal movement. So it's not like a hypothetical, or it's not like a theoretical corridor. These are all live corridors that we see through the data that is collected through camera traps and scat analysis and all of that. So that is a corridor which is functional. Now, having said that it's functional, it's important for us to just make it safer than what it is right now. And we can't really restore those areas because, like I said, these are not protected areas. So it's not pretty much trying to restore them. But if there is a highway, then can we create, underpasses, or if there's a railway, can we slow down the vehicle there? Because there have been tiger kills that have happened on railway tracks. So can we slow down the train at that point? So can we work with the railway authorities to make sure that that can happen? So this is what we can do once we identify a corridor. We will have to work with the development authorities, respective development authorities, to make sure, can we put mitigation measures in place to make it a safe corridor, right? So that is the plan of action that people work on and people are working on to make sure it's a safe corridor passage or a safe passage for the animal to move around, because we can't really, build that corridor or restore the corridor in the way that we would want or we would, envision it to be. But these are the measures that can be taken to make it less threatening for the animal to move around. Yeah.
Thanks, Vidya.
Hope answers that question.
you. Kiran sir, please.
Yeah, so, good evening, everyone. With a very crisp explanation. When adding to that in Panna, the 151 kids of last year, they have moved out of Panna now.
Yes.
Yeah, this year again they have given two cups, which I was after that I could not get it.
Okay.
Of course, the which one I am having at my back, it has moved out.
Okay.
The last year I've been
Okay, good
frequently
to know
visiting
your-
Panna.
Following
Yeah, the another you can evidently say that the tigers have been brought by Panna, Bandhavgarh, and all those places. The colors of all tigers are a little bit different.
Absolutely. We can look at
If you observe,
Yes.
because the genes are different. Adding to the tribes part of it, this year, or rather from the last year, surprised to see about 7 lady guides have come in.
Yes.
They are the locals.
And
This
just
is-
to add to it, there is a Pardi girl who is the first guide in Panna,
Absolutely.
part of the training program that we conduct.
Absolutely. I mean, this is worth mentioning here that the guides are now, being inducted. They have enormous, the learned experience as well as the hereditary experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It adds up to two things. These two things I would like to add.
Totally. No, and thanks for pointing that out. I mean, there are so many things, but yeah, so this is probably one of its kind in the country where a Pardi member has been employed by the forest department as a nature guide ever in the country, I think. It was a huge step taken by the forest department, very, very positive step. And that has really given a boost to the community, saying they can actually use the skill to make a career.
And another recent development in Panna, I'm talking of the last month, last month, they have stopped using the mobile phone inside
Okay.
of a guide and the driver.
Right.
You see, earlier what used to happen, I am at Jodi Nala, the other fellow in grassland, the phone call, he used to come and rush. Everywhere jeeps used to be there. Morning they led 35 jeeps and the evening around 25 or so. So that rush is not there now. They have, from the GPS, they have been under observation. And, the guide and the driver has to deposit their mobile.
Right. Yeah. So the tourism rules keep changing based on, different experiences every season.
That
they
has
have-
worked very well. That has worked very well. That is also a part where the animal is not being harassed.
Correct.
I'm looking at the other angle, just not tourism part of it. Otherwise they block the passage, they block everything, that is not there. These three things I would like to add. Thank you very much. Very crisp explanations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya. One last question from my side.
Sure, Sanjay.
Why is it Last Wilderness?
So the name was given before I joined the organization, of course, but I can give you the logic. So the thought process was, this is the last wilderness that we have really right now. If we let this go, then we may probably not have any wilderness left. So we are protecting this last wilderness, and that is where the whole name came from, saying Last Wilderness Foundation. I know many people have asked me this, and I'm
No, I think we should change it to Lasting.
Lasting Wilderness. Yeah, now I think it's time that we change it, I guess. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I think somebody's asked me for my contact details.
Yeah, I will share it with Nagajyoti. Please, if you can share your email ID, you can just type.
From the chat itself.
Yeah, you can type on the chat. I'll also make a note and I'll circulate it.
I'm putting my personal.
I really would like
Or
to
you can just
express
send it
my
to me.
thanks. my thanks, and literally very, very nice session. And it is really correlating with the environment where you are talking about the solid waste management. And it is very important to spread that awareness through the SRAC, that is one of the Environment Sustainability Rotary Action Group, where we are taking care of the environment related sessions or something. So there we can promote this very well. So definitely, I would like to invite you as a guest speaker, and we will definitely, try to understand these things with respect to wild animals.
Okay. No, it'll be very interesting because that's what we do in cities. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
people don't understand. They just look at the animal, saying that
Yeah.
animal is because the
Yeah.
forest department is not taking care of
Yeah.
them. But it's
Yeah.
actually our own actions which are inviting the animals to our own homes. I'll be happy. Let me know anytime. Thank you.
Yeah. I will send you invitation.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya. Thanks for that
Okay, I've
wonderful
been
session.
reading all the messages in the chat window, and thank you everyone who's been messaging me. I've read all the messages. Thank you.
In fact, we started off a little early today, 6:30 instead of usual 7:30. I thought we may not have our usual attendance, but by 6:40 we caught up. We had most of the regular attendees and also a few new attendees also joining us.
Okay.
It was really nice, Vidya. Thank you so much. Of course, it was nice to hear that you connected with our local Hakipiki tribe here, and also you were able to find out that they speak Pardi language. It's
Yes.
quite something that I was not aware of. It's really nice. That shows how much of interest you have in working towards uplifting these communities. It has always been our wish to um, extend the cooperation through Rotary for organizations like you, who are actually working on ground. So we are not able to come and physically do what you people are doing. At least the only way we can do is probably to join hands with you. I am sure going forward, we are trying to, form some Rotary clubs with special focus on environment and doing work for, joining hands with organizations like yours. So I'm sure we will join hands with you soon.
Sure.
And I also thank Chandani for coming up with Vidya's name. A couple of years ago, Vidya had addressed not our group, but was a different group. It was on a Women's Day, if I am right. So that was also, she addressed a lot of Rotarians. That was also a very good talk. And Rashmi, as usual, thank you for all the tech support. And thank you all the participants who have joined us today from different parts of the world. And also special thanks to all those who asked the questions, and we were able to learn a little more from Vidya. Thank you, Vidya.
To everybody, thank you for your time.
Yeah. Vidya,